Hi everyone, welcome to my floral tutorials for beginners. Today we are going to tackle a daffodil, just a nice simple daffodil with 3 colours. We are going to be using gamboge, cobalt blue and rose madder. So I'm going to show you step by step how to create this, showing you absolutely everything. This is part of a playlist of beginners florals, so please do look up the playlist if you want to do more, and we'll crack on with the tutorial. So today we're going to tackle daffodils. Over the years I've done a lot of daffodils, and this is my basic tips on how you can draw a daffodil. So I'm going to start with a triangle. So we're going to do a triangle this way. It's a wonky triangle basically, and then we're going to do a triangle this way. If you twizzle it round, it's sort of like a star. But this is giving us the basis shape of the daffodil. Then within the centre, we're going to do a little arch. And we're going to come out to create a trumpet for the daffodil. I'm going to do a bit of a wiggly line all the way around like that. So now you can see where those petals are going to come. So if I bring in a petal here, I'm using those star points to bring in the petals. Now this one you can hardly see, so you're just going to get that little bit there. But basically, as long as they are coming towards that centre, they will work, and it's giving you that sense of perspective that you need quite easily. See, there you've got a beautiful daffodil. We're only going to do one today, nice and simple. Going to bring the stem down, and then we're going to do 2 leaf shapes, and there we've got our daffodil. You can tweak it a little bit. It needs to come in a little bit there. It's just a little bit too, sometimes it can look a little bit too round. Things in nature are never uniform, so you can fiddle with it a little bit, but that's your basic shape there. So I've already got some colours mixed up here. I've got gamboge yellow. I have taken a pea-sized blob into half a teaspoon of water. I've got rose madder and I've got cobalt blue. Similar basis, so they're all of the same consistency. If you've already done my tulip tutorial, then you will know that this daffodil is on the same basis as a tulip. We've got these 3 colours and they're all consistent. I'm on Saunders Waterford. It's a cotton paper. I'm going to wet the whole sheet. This is a squirrel mop brush. I'm just taking the water over. I want a nice even layer, no puddles. If you're on a slightly different paper, if it's a cellulose or wood pulp paper, then you just need to make sure that you've got a nice even coat and you've got a little bit less time to work it. Cotton paper is a great thing because it gives you more time. It stays wetter for longer. It's a watercolourist's best secret weapon, really. Paper is a good thing. So I'm going to start, this is my round number 10. I'm going to start with the gamboge yellow. And I'm going to come into the whole of the daffodil. In fact, I want it to flow outwards. This is all about creating a background at the same time as painting the flower. I'm then going to bring some of that yellow through the stem and through the leaves, as if it was growing upwards and outwards. So we've got 2 actions. We've got it flowing from the daffodil and flowing that way. It should all start to settle really quite nicely. rinsed my brush off, dabbed it off, and I'm coming into the blue. And I'm bringing that blue upwards and outward strokes from the stem. Okay, I'm going to swap down now to around number 6. So I'm a little bit more in control of this rose madder. So I'm going to bring a few little bits in towards the bottom. This is all just adding atmosphere. I'm going to bring a few little bits around the bottom of the daffodil. I'm not going anywhere near the top. Then what I'm going to do is dab into some neat gamboge yellow. I'll take it into a separate well, and some neat rose madder, and I'm going to make an orange. This orange is quite thick, and I'm going to bring that into the trumpet centre and side. I'm just going to watch what it's doing. I don't want it to flow too far. I don't mind it flowing that way a little bit because that's going to give me some natural shadow within the petals. I don't want it to flow too far into those other colours because I'm at risk of making brown. So I'm going to let that dry now. Okay, so that's settled really nicely and all dried. For the purpose of tutorials, I always do quite heavy so you can see the marks and you can see the pencil marks, but you can go very light, or you can even rub out and take some of the pencil mark out if you want to. Okay, so I'm going to come into the stem, a little bit of water, and then a little bit of the gamboge yellow. Just make sure I haven't got too much on there. It's quite a small stem. I don't want that to flow too much. I'm not rinsing my brush out in between. I'm going to dip into the cobalt blue. I'm going to bring it down the right hand side. So you're going to get a really nice cylindrical feel because it's nice and wet, and it's just going to flow across that wet paint, but it's still going to leave a little bit of light. Rinse that out. I'm going to come on to each of the leaves. I'm going to leave a tiny 1mm gap in between. I'm not drying them out, I'm drying them off every time, but you can dry it off. So again, gamboge yellow, not rinsing out my brush, dipping into the cobalt blue. Just taking a little bit of that in. Rinse my brush, clean water. This is around number 6 I'm using. Bring on a little bit of water. A little bit of the gamboge yellow. Again, leaving that little bit of a gap so that they don't blend together. Not rinsing my brush out, dipping into the cobalt blue. Stroking that in just one side, and then letting it blend over and do its thing. You see this one blending? It's about having the confidence to let the watercolour do its thing. So I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dried. It's settled really nicely. This is my round number 6, and I'm going to come back to that really strong orange. So I've dipped my number 6 into water. I'm just using some of the neat colour just to make sure that I've got plenty of that orange. So this is a bit of the gamboge yellow, a bit of the rose madder, and then what I'm going to do is to come in. So this is fairly loaded with the neat colour, and I'm just going to create an edge like that, and I'm going to rinse my brush out load it with clean water, just dab it off once so there's some water there. And I'm going to run this towards the centre. So I'm coming towards this centre here. Now if it doesn't move straight away, that's because your paint's nice and thick. You're just going to keep manipulating it. It should start to flow. If it doesn't, it is flowing, but it's very subtle and I want you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to bring a little bit of paint in because I want to create that effect that it's coming into the centre. I'm just going to let that bit settle. So I'm not worried about that other edge at all. That's just bringing that in to that centre. Whilst that's doing its thing, let me just check I've got enough of the gamboge yellow. So I'm just dabbing in some water. I'm going to start to come on to the daffodil petals. So you can see how I've done that. I've come on to dry. I've left gaps of white. I then wouldn't do that petal or that petal because I want that edge to dry so you get a nice edge. But I could come on to this one. And just nice strokes following the line of the petal but leaving little gaps. I can do this one as well if I'm really careful. Following that direction, little gaps. Okay, so this bit now will be settling quite nicely. So I'm going to go back to that neat orange. And I want to get a bit that's nice and deep in here. So I'm coming up to the ruffle of that edge. If you try to do it all in one go, then what happens is it just becomes a wet mess. You've got to wait for that sheen to go off to put this darker bit in. That's going to then give a sense of depth within that trumpet. And you can actually pull the colour out a little bit that way as well. If you think orange and blue are complementary colours, if you dab in to a little bit of blue, and just take a little bit of that in. I've not rinsed my brush. That's going to make it darker and it's going to make it a browner effect, but that's going to give that good sense of shadow in the centre. I'll dry that one off. So that's nicely dry. Give my brush a bit of a rinse because it's got the orange on still. I'm going to come back into the gamboge yellow. So I'm going to do these other petals in exactly the same way, which is just starting from the top, bringing it in and leaving little gaps of light. And there you've got your daffodil. Rinse that off. Then I'm going to just pick up a little bit of the rose madder and bring that just down on that bottom edge. So you've got a slightly different tone. Rinse my brush, it's still damp, and I'm doing that same thing, which is I'm pulling it up towards. If I take another little bit of that rose madder and just bring it on the underside, that's going to give a real good sense of shadow on that underside as well. And then the other little neat trick that works really nicely, Some of these petals are still a bit wet, and this works quite nicely in the way that it blends. You see, I've just taken that little bit of rose there, and I've got a nearly dry brush, so I can just watch it and just pull it a little bit further, and that's giving you that definition in between each petal without much effort, and it gives it a really nice flow. So there we go, it's all finished. A really simple but effective way to do a daffodil. So I hope you've enjoyed it. We've used just 3 colours again. Please do like, subscribe and share. I'll pop a link to the floral playlist here, because we are doing a series, so there's lots for you to try if this is the first one you've come across. And I shall see you next time.